Hey guys, it's Brian with PhoneArena here, and today we're going to take a look at the Samsung Epic 4G Touch, the first Galaxy S2 version to hit the United States. The Epic 4G Touch, as the name would imply, is on Sprint. They are the first of the three carriers that are going to have this phone. Each of them are a little bit different. What the Sprint version is packing is a 4.5-inch Super AMOLED Plus display. It is big, it is bold, it is brilliant, it is gorgeous. Colors are oversaturated as we're used to with the AMOLED screens, but at the same time the blacks are really deep, the colors really pop, and we really like these displays. Under the hood we have a 1.2 gigahertz Samsung processor. The T-Mobile version is going to come with a Qualcomm, and the AT&T version only has a 4.3-inch screen, so even though all three of them are Galaxy S's, they all have their own little niches. Samsung is kind of differentiating the lines a little bit there, but for the most part you should experience some pretty awesome performance. The design is very basic. There's not too much. This phone is very thin. It's only just under 10 millimeters thin at 9.6, so extremely small compared to something like the Evo 3D. As you can see when we put them side by side, there is definitely a noticeable difference, and the Evo is not a thick phone by any means. It feels good in the hand. On the back we've got some texturing. It's not soft touch, it is a just hard plastic, but this texturing makes it a lot easier to hold, gives it a little bit of grip. We really like this display, the design. It's very simple, like we said. It feels a lot better than, say, the Epic 4G the first time around. Even though it's made with plenty of quality materials, we haven't seen any problems nearly a year later. It just felt a little cheap. This one, maybe because it doesn't have a slide mechanism, we're not really sure what they use for the housing. It's plastic for sure, because this is a much lighter device than high-end phones like the Evo 3D or the Motorola Photon 4G. But it still feels very solid. It doesn't have that cheapness or that plasticky feel to it that we've come used to with Samsung. So much better job on the design here. You've of course got the 4 touch Android buttons down at the bottom. These don't come lit up for more than a half a second by default. That's one of the things we'll show you real quick. Go into your settings, and then under display, and the touch key light duration. We find this something to be quite maddening, and that's really not a feature that any other phone that we can think of has. So it's nice to adjust that, but at the same time we're not sure why it's so quick by default. Of course, we have the 8-megapixel camera on the back of the phone here. This is capable of recording video in 1080p, and it also does 30 frames per second, so it's quite impressive on that. The volume rocker is on this side over here. It's kind of small. Even though you can definitely tell the difference between the two buttons, you can see that gap there. Just for how large this phone is, to have that volume rocker be so small up there at the top, really no reason not to make it bigger. And the other thing that's glaring is the lack of a camera button anywhere on the phone. So you're relying on the on-screen controls there. So while it's a very well-designed phone, it feels good in the hand, it's nice and light, it just slides in your pocket like butter. Being so thin, being so light, you really don't notice it. It would really be nice to have a bigger volume button, and even more so to have a dedicated camera key, because the camera on this is really quite good. The interface is very much what we came to expect from the Samsung Galaxy S2. Everything is extremely fluid. You don't have a wraparound here on the home screen. However, you do in the apps list, which is nice. We do like that feature. In the home screen, you have the pinch to fly out. The difference with this and what we've seen from, say, HTC is that you can then rearrange these screens in whatever way you see fit, or if you wanted to, you can delete screens sometimes as well. So that's one of the nice features. This is TouchWiz. It says 3.0 on Samsung's official site. We asked for some clarification. We didn't really get anything except that it's the latest, but we're pretty sure that this is 4.0, and if it's not 4.0, it looks exactly like 4.0. So a lot better widgets in our opinion. Something like the calendar over here, how it's the 2-panel. So you've got the calendar up top and then the agenda mixed in. Something like the AP mobile widget over here, which gives us some nice actual graphic headlines. And like we said, this thing is lightning fast, quadrant scores 3500 plus, We know those benchmarks don't always mean a whole lot, but it's still really impressive numbers out there, and it's translating into a very quick phone. This thing is not stuttered on us for 1 second. Page loads are quick. Everything just runs buttery smooth. Most of the included apps are pretty straightforward at this point, nothing too new. This is a Sprint ID device, much like the Motorola Photon. It doesn't have the stock Android like we're used to seeing, say, with the Samsung Conquer. So you can download the Sprint ID apps if you want, but it's not even as intrusive as it is on the Photon. Obviously, it's got the Samsung TouchWiz interface on top if you want that. So in terms of browser performance, everything is super smooth. As you can see, we do have the swipe keyboard here. Let's kick it back, and we see we have the PhoneArena website loaded. Pinch to zoom in, double tap to zoom in, zoom out. You've got the pinch as well. It quickly switches around with you. This phone is just extremely fast. We have no hang up, no lag, no nothing. It of course does have the stock Android keyboard as an option in the Samsung keyboard, and you can download whatever you want, but swipe does come with the preloaded for those who like that as opposed to tapping in and out. So overall user experience is very good, not nearly as in-depth as HTC's Sense. However, it does have the speed benefit going for it. When you put it all together, the Samsung Epic 4G Touch makes a very strong case for itself. It's got a brilliant, large, bright display. It's very light and very thin. The 8 megapixel camera with 1080p recording performs above most else. Call quality is good. Battery life is better than we've seen on most devices. And that's not to mention that the phone is just blazing fast. That said, it does lack some of the niceties like a QHD display or 3D capabilities. But all in all, it's really hard to say that the Epic 4G Touch isn't the best Android device out there right now. It may not fit everybody's needs, but when you put it all together, it's going to fit most people.